Hey guys, E10 here from Sunbros, and today I'm really excited to be bringing you guys another in the top 5 series as we talk about top 5 warriors in Arena of Valor. Before we head on over to the number 5 spot, I just want to say if you guys enjoy the content, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course check out our other stuff. We have more top 5 videos, how to play Arena of Valor videos, as well as our hero quick look videos, and of course our Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night live streams. Now for the sake of clarification, here are some of the things that we took into account and some of the things that we used to grade the warriors in order to best fit them into the top 5 best and the top 5 worst. We talked about their balance for damage and tankiness. We believe that a good warrior, a good off-tank warrior, is going to have a really solid balance of tankiness and damage, and if they have too much of one or the other, they're not really fulfilling the necessity for the warrior off-tank role. Additionally, we talked about them being a distraction or a disruption, being frontline heroes, having great crowd control, specifically, an extra point for having great AoE crowd control, and of course, they need to have really good initiate abilities, and they generally have good mobility. So those are some of the things that we took into account as we were actually setting up who to choose for each one. Now, without further ado, we'll start off at number 5, and coming in at number 5 is none other than Scud. Now, one of the interesting things about Scud, one of the reasons that he's really angry, and something that doesn't show up in his background story, is Scud grew up with some really big-time family issues. His dad used to get around a lot. The end result was that Scud always had issues with his stepbrothers. Change is never easy for anyone, and at first, they had a lot of problems getting along.
You better not go to sleep. As soon as your eyes shut, I'm gonna punch you square in the face. I hope you stay still when you sleep, because I'm putting a rat trap between your legs. I'm gonna take a pillowcase and fill it full of bars of soap and beat the shit out of you.
But in the end, love won out.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yup!
Now, when we're discussing the merit of Scud's placement as the number 5 best warrior in Arena of Valor, he probably had some of the biggest changes amongst all the warriors in this class during the latest patch. One of the issues that Scud used to have is that he didn't have a very good initiate ability. That changed when they gave a huge buff to his first ability, Furious Charge. It used to stop on the first enemy hero that it hit, and now it actually goes to its full extension length, allowing Scud to use his ultimate, Wild Beast Fury, to knock enemies in every which way, knocking some towards his team and some away from the team, creating a really advantageous position that might help them secure the victory. So the combination of crowd control from his ultimate and actually his first ability, Furious Charge, does knock enemies up into the air is really solid. Throw in the fact that his balance to tank ratio is very, very good, and he has no problem frontlining for his team, as well as being able to cause big time disruptions and distractions for all the enemies. Coming in at number 4, of course, is none other than Santa Claus himself. And obviously, I'm talking about Ormar. He has 3 incredible skins, and the first thing that you notice about all 3 skins is that no matter which one you're looking at, the beard is always stunning. The second thing that I noticed, of course, is that he looks just like Stoic, the chief of Berk from How to Train Your Dragon.
You got all that.
Oh wow, that was something else. That was equal parts impressive and disturbing. Somebody please go and warn Prada. Now the first thing that Ormar brings to the table in order to be number 4 on this list is of course his amazing crowd control. His passive Gut Punch says that each time Ormar deals damage, he has a chance to stun the enemy target and deal damage. Now there's an obvious RNG element to this, but I can assure you that these stuns go off all the time. Additionally, his first ability, Unstoppable, he dashes forward and gets an enhanced normal attack that deals damage and knocks the target into the air. And his second ability, Swagger, he smashes his hammer on the ground and slows all enemies' movement speed to 50%. Each time you hit a target with Swagger, it creates a mark. After 3 marks, it actually procs the passive Gut Punch, stunning all the enemies that it hits. And last but certainly not least is the ultimate, Walking Tall, where Ormar swings around like a madman, stunning everything in his path over and over and over again, and it can be absolutely devastating in a team fight. Coming in at number 3 is, of course, Diana, the Princess of Themyscira, and even though she just recently came out, she is so dominant in the game that she simply wouldn't be denied. Now, when we discuss the merits of number 3, number 2, and number 1, we realize that really all 3 of them simply check all the boxes of anything you would possibly want when it comes to a warrior, which is why we really feel that all 3 of them could be considered amongst the best heroes in the game altogether. All 4 of Wonder Woman's abilities have 2 different dimensions to them, making her an incredibly deep hero with a really solid kit. Now, taking into account how how new she actually is to NA, I wouldn't be surprised to see her continuing to rise above the ranks as people figure out more intelligent ways to use her, as opposed to really shallow heroes with really simple kits. Wonder Woman's incredible balance of tankiness and damage starts with her passive Amazon Shield, where every 3 auto attacks, Wonder Woman throws out her shield dealing true damage, and if she hits an enemy, she can get healed by it. If she hits an enemy hero, she can get triple healing from it. The second place where this is true is actually her first ability, Sword and Shield. Wonder Woman goes in with her sword, deals damage, and slows enemies down, as well as if she hits an enemy hero with the shield, she'll receive damage reduction up to 20% at level 6, and then her second part of that ability is the sword, and if she hits people with that, it does damage, and if she hits it in the middle portion, she does double damage. And last but certainly not least is of course her ultimate, Bracelets of Submission. Wonder Woman builds up energy and slams her bracelets together, dealing a bunch of damage as well as stunning her enemies in front of her. On the flip side, Wonder Woman and her allies receive a shield and she gets a movement speed boost. Now the crazy part is, while she's building up the energy, Wonder Woman will receive high amounts of damage, but I can assure you that after having played her, Wonder Woman takes virtually no damage when she's charging this up. Now as you can see, these 3 abilities, the passive, first ability, and the ultimate, all offer some form of very, very good damage, along with some form of very, very good natural tankiness or damage mitigation. And Wonder Woman definitely isn't lacking in the crowd control department. That same shield we talked about on her passive, when it hits enemies, it slows down their movement speed for 50%. Her first ability slows down enemies by 20%. Then she has Lasso of Truth, her second ability, which is really crazy because if you hit it to an enemy that has over 50% damage, she actually lassos them and pulls herself to them, creating a whole myriad of opportunities she can do there. If they have less than 50%, she actually lassos them and pulls them to her. In either direction in which Wonder Woman lassos, the enemies are stunned. And as if that wasn't enough crowd control, we also have obviously the ultimate we just talked about, which stuns all enemies in a very large area in front of her when she's smashing those bracelets together. Wonder Woman is the first hero on this list that physically checks every single box of what we're looking for from a good warrior. Great initiator, good mobility, great crowd control, an incredible tank to damage ratio, amazing disruption and distraction abilities, making her a prime choice for a frontline off-tank position. And if I could give one piece of advice for anyone going up against Wonder Woman, ADCs beware. Coming in at number 2 is Arthur. Obviously, everyone knows a lot of Arthur's backstory as he's a very important and well-known historical figure. We all know, of course, the story about his very special and very long sword. Obviously, we're talking about Excalibur, the magical sword that was placed in the stone. And the second thing that we all remember is Arthur's right-hand man, the greatest wizard who ever lived, Merlin. That's funny, because I've never seen Merlin do that. When we were putting together this list, we easily could have done Arthur 2A, Wonder Woman 2B. The one thing that really separated Arthur from Wonder Woman was his ability to both do magic damage as well as physical damage. His second ability, Holy Guard, does magic damage entirely. It's a huge AoE damage. And his first ability, Righteous Fervor, after he's done with the ability, which gives him a movement speed buff, and then he leaps to his target, but his next auto attacks for 5 seconds all do extra magic damage. And when you combine that with both the items, the Leviathan and Mantle of Ra, which both do AoE magic damage, and when you add it all together, you get a guy who's really able to put out a very high amount of both physical and magic damage, making him extremely difficult to tank against. Of course, Arthur's naturally tanky thanks to his passive Paragon, which gives him just natural scaling armor. He has great initiate with his first ability, Righteous Fervor, which increases his movement speed and allows him to leap to his target during the next normal attack. And it's also an incredible crowd control ability, dealing a 90% slow for 1 second. You add that into his ultimate Deep Impact, which he jumps up high, crashes towards enemy hero, and knocks all the enemy heroes around that up, which gives him a second ability with really high crowd control and initiation. All this adds up to Arthur being our second warrior on this list who checks off all the boxes of what we're looking for in a solid warrior off tank. And if Arthur jumps your backline, remember these very wise and important words from the greatest wizard who ever lived.
Rally, you fools.
Alright guys, and last but certainly not least, coming in at number 1, best warriors in all of Arena of Valor, without a doubt, is none other than Xanus. Obviously, I'm kidding, because this isn't the top 5 worst heroes, this is the top 5 best. Hashtag spoiler alert. Now, will the real number 1 warrior in Arena of Valor please stand up? Of course, we're talking about none other than Zephys. Now, when we look at Zephys, whether we're looking at his background story or any of his 4 abilities, there's a common theme that happens with Zephys. When Zephys shows up, death follows. But the reality is that for any of us who've been playing Arena of Valor for a little while, we know that this is a lot scarier than this. So what is it that makes Zephys the number 1 warrior in Arena of Valor, you may ask? Well, Zephys is really an assassin trapped in a warrior's body. And what I mean by that is that he's very potent damage, very potent burst damage, but he has abilities that make him extra naturally tanky. For example, his passive, Unwavering Death. Every 3 HP loss grants 1 HP damage reduction. Throw in his second ability, Death's Flurry. Zephys unleashes a series of rapid attacks, dealing damage and healing him based on how many enemy heroes he hits. And as if this heal wasn't crazy enough, by level 6 the cooldown gets down to 4 seconds, and an average Zephys build does max out at 40% cooldown reduction, which gets the cooldown of this incredible ability down to 2.6 seconds. As if the incredible natural tankiness wasn't enough, his first ability, Death Rift, gives him a really solid dash that can also get his cooldown down to 2.6 seconds, so it works really nicely as both an initiator and an escapability tool. And as if all that wasn't enough, Zephys also offers us massive AoE crowd control with his ultimate Death from Above. Zephys attacks from above, dealing a crap ton of damage to the target area and knocking all enemies into the air. Additionally, enemies hit are inflicted with the Thunderclap debuff, and they take additional damage when hit by Zephys' normal attacks. When a good Zephys puts all these abilities together, it's like an incredible death machine who's virtually impossible to kill. When you put this horrifying package together and put a bow on top, what you get is not only the number 1 warrior in all of Arena of Valor, but arguably the number 1 hero in the game. Alright guys, that's the end of our top 5 best warrior video. To recap, coming in at number 5 is Scud, number 4, Ormar, number 3, Wonder Woman, number 2, Arthur, and coming in at number 1, best warriors in Arena of Valor is of course Zephys. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, till next time.